Hi, you're on Haaretz.com. My name is Anshel Pfeffer, and with me today is retired Major General Amos Yadlin, the former commander of Israel's military intelligence branch, and currently director of the Institute for National Security Studies, INSS, the leading think tank on these matters in Israel and probably in the Middle East. And we're having this conversation as part of Haaretz.com's series of interviews towards the big decision, what we expect to be a big decision on May the 12th, when President Donald Trump will announce what the United States is going to do with the Iran deal. And we'll just start with asking you, Major General Yadlin, what do you think the impact will be if Trump does indeed decide to basically pull out of the JCPOA?
It depends on two things. What kind of walk away Trump will exercise vis-a-vis the JCPOA, whether he will walk away just by declaration and nothing will follow in the Security Council, on Congress, and basically it will be a declaration for his voters fulfilling a promise from the election, or after staff work, getting the Congress to have new sanctions, go to the Security Council, snap back some of the features of the deal and have more effect against the Iranians. This is a US only, and there is an all-out option with the Europeans bring on board even tougher sanctions against Iran. So it has to do first what Trump will do, and then what the Iranians are doing.
Let's go back and talk about the first option, because it seems that if Trump is going to do something, it'll be more on a declarative level. We've seen how Trump has run his foreign policy, or his lack of foreign policy until now, not that much of any detailed ideas or plans. And if he will do something on May 12th, it will probably be the first option, and walking back, but not with an entire plan of new sanctions. What do you see the effects of such an action then?
This will be only the declaration, and nothing will follow, I guess. And now I'm going to the Iranian reaction. The Iranians will stay because they enjoy from an agreement that lifts the sanction, gives them a lot of resources, and 13 years from now gives them a full legitimacy for a full-scale nuclear program. So they will stay. The interesting case is if Trump really bring on board new sanctions, and he bring the Europeans, and then the Iranians are with a dilemma, whether to stay on the deal or to walk away themselves.
Let's talk about the Iranians. Do you think that they want to resume their nuclear program now, that they would take any opportunity to do it? Or, as you said, they'll do it to a pre-2013 level, or more like a declarative step?
I have no doubt that the Iranians want to have the capability to develop a nuclear weapon in a very short time. This JCPOA give it to them only 10 years from signing, towards the end, the sunset clause. They prefer to be there tomorrow if sanctions are not imposed. When they reach the point to choose between nuclear enrichment now and sanctions that maybe were on the way to destroy the regime, they say the safety of the regime is more important. We will sign a deal and we will postpone, because the Iranian culture is not like our culture. The planning horizon is not the 6 o'clock news, not the 8 o'clock news. It's a decade, half a decade ahead, and for them it's enough time. So they are willing to wait 10 years and lift all the sanctions, build what they are doing now in Syria, conventional power that will take Israel hostage in a way that North Korea is taking South Korea as a hostage, on a conventional power on our border, to make sure that 10 years from now they can break out to the bomb in the time of their convenience.
Amos, you just described a scenario whereby the Iranians do a similar kind of encroachment on Israel as North Korea has done, with South Korea at the same time building up a powerful conventional force close to Israel's border. Iran doesn't have a border with Israel, therefore they're trying to do it now in southern Syria, while...
And center Syria.
But near enough to Israel's border to be a serious conventional threat, while at the same time doing the groundwork for a nuclear breakout, perhaps in a decade from now. So what does the Iran deal even provide at this stage? Because if they don't need to do it in the next 10 years, if they want to focus in the next 10 years on the conventional side, does the Iran deal even give the region or Israel any kind of safety now?
People hoped on this side, supported the deal, that Iran will be changed because it will be open to the world, lifting the sanctions will make the moderates stronger. What we have seen in the last 3 years, unfortunately, that the deal haven't strengthened the moderate, and Iran is more aggressive in Yemen, in Syria, in Lebanon. So maybe it's time to rethink the deal. However, you are not walking away from the deal if you don't have a well-planned plan B. And what is Israel and America plan B in case that the Iranians are enriching again to a scope that is unacceptable?
So you mentioned the other nations who are trying to urge Trump to stick with the JCPOA. We've seen Emmanuel Macron has been in Washington. Angela Merkel is on her way as well. They're all trying to convince Trump to stick with the Iran deal. Macron said he doesn't think he succeeded. What is their strategy? I mean, they also do not want to see a nuclear Iran, and they're not. They are in support of Israel. So why do they? What are they getting wrong? Why are they sticking with the Iran deal, in your opinion?
First of all, the Europeans, by culture, are always preferring a diplomacy, a way of reaching an agreement, and hoping for good. By the way, anybody who is convinced that Iran will change within 10 years should support the deal. And the Europeans are, you may say that they are naive, but they hope that Iran finally will change its regime by an Iranian Gorbachev. Second, they are working very hard to give Trump something. And there are 4 issues here. There is the sunset clause, there is the ballistic missiles, which is not in the deal, it's a UN Security Council resolution. There is the inspection, which is not good enough and not deep enough.
Not a military installation.
Not in military installation, not in unidentified site. And there is the issue of the Iranian behavior in Syria. 2 of the issues you need the Iranians to change, the inspection and the sunset. 2 of the issues you can do independently without consulting Iran. And the Europeans are trying at least to do the 2 and promise the Americans that when sunset will be relevant 8 years, 10 years from now, they will be with the Americans. The danger for us as an Israelis that who knows who will be the American president at that time. And now we have a president that basically sees the Iranian issue as we see it. Dangerous, problematic, need to be dealt with. So if somebody would have promised me that 10 years from now, the President of the United States will see Iran as we see it, I would have waited. The dilemma today, you don't want to go to walk away from the deal too early because you have good years in the deal.
Because there's no plan B in place.
And no plan. You know that the administration is not yet...
not very good at long-term planning, let's put it that way.
And they are busy with North Korea. And it's another interesting issue. Because assume that Trump will reach some kind of agreement with Kim. This is changing, I think, the American concern with North Korea that is #1 priority today. And suddenly Iran can be #1 priority.
So you think a deal with North Korea is a good development for this conflict? It will help the Trump administration to focus more on Iran?
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Look at Secretary of Defense. He used to be the guy who say, I have 3 problems.
Iran and Iran and Iran.
Iran, Iran and Iran. And now, when he is sitting in the Pentagon,
Pyongyang.
Yeah, and you don't blame him for that. The North Koreans already have the missiles that reach continental United States, and they have the bombs, nuclear bombs. I'm not sure they married the 2 yet, but it's much more dangerous than Iran. They are 15, 20 years ahead of Iran. So if North Korea is removed, Iran is now the #1
So it
issue.
would be much better if we could switch around the dates and have the summit between Kim and Trump first, and then Trump's decision on the JCPOA.
Absolutely.
And I'd like to end this with something much closer to home, and let's assume that somehow the nuclear issue with Iran is either solved or postponed to kick down the road for a few more years. We still have the issue here in Syria, and we've seen in the last few weeks Iran trying again and again to bring in more equipment and more capabilities, basically to try and limit Israel's abilities to fly in Syrian and Lebanese airspace. Do you see a confrontation there inevitable, or do you see a way out in which Iran can somehow feel that it's getting what it wants and Israel will not be threatened by a serious Iranian presence there?
The INSS published its forecast for 2018, and we pointed to the fact that there is a coalition there. The Iranians are determined to build a military power, not only to limit Israel from flying. We already spoke about the ballistic missiles with accurate and precise warhead, and Israel is determined not to let it happen. We already have 2 days of combat, on February 10, on April 14, and it's not over.
And these are the first 2 direct confrontations
Absolutely.
between Israel and Iran since the Islamic Revolution.
And it's not over. I do have the confidence that Israel can cope with Iran in Syria, by the way, by itself. We don't need the Americans to help us deal with Iran in Syria. We are strong enough. We have a wonderful intelligence. We have a wonderful Air Force. We have a very good army, and we can do it. We don't want to reach the full-scale war. Escalation control is very important here. But I want to speak about the Russian interest, not because they support Israel. The Russian interest is that Syria will be stabilized, politically and militarily. And what Iran is doing, and what Assad is doing with the chemical weapon attack, is making Syria less stable. And the solutions that the Russians want to see in Syria is, in a way, go far away from them. So Russia has a cooling effect on the escalation that if both sides will continue to determine with their strategic trends and vectors, we may face a full-scale coalition.